Hey everybody. So today we're looking at 3.7 rewrite equations and formulas. All right. The first kind of big thing is the definition of what is called a literal equation. So go ahead and copy this, get our little example down there, and I'll show you what's going on. All right. So a literal equation, it says it replaces coefficients and constants with letters, or i.e. variables. All right. So basically, literal equation is the equation just made up of variables. The big point of this whole lesson is we're going to be solving these equations for different variables. All right. So no numbers today, just letters. But you'll see we follow the same solving rules. Our answers look a little different, I guess, or interesting, but it's the same solving rules we've been learning this entire chapter or two. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Okay, so go ahead and copy this first example. We'll try it out. All right, so this is asking us to solve 4x like we normally would. All right, we can see we have, x on the left-hand side. We have a and b we need to get rid of. C is already on the right, so we're happy about that. When we go to solve here, we're going to solve the same way we always would, okay, dealing with addition or subtraction first. So first thing, let's get rid of this b that's being added by subtracting it to both sides. Right, so those are gone. On the left, we have ax, a times x. On the right, we have c minus b. Obviously we can't subtract that, so we're just going to write it as c minus b. Okay, now last thing, we can solve for x. A is being multiplied, so we'll get rid of it by dividing. Just remember the entire right side needs to be divided by a. Okay, so that's how we'll write it. Okay, and yeah, a's are canceling, and we are left with x on the left. On the right, we have c minus b divided by a, and that's literally our answer right there. So c minus b divided by a. Okay, one other thing, let's add this to our notes. There's actually another way of writing this. Technically, what's being divided by a is c is being divided by a, and minus b is also being divided by a. So another way of writing this, let's go ahead and say or, would be this: c over a, and then minus b over a. Okay, and these are literally the same thing, but this one's really, I guess, a good way of thinking about it because that a is being divided into both of these. All right, so if you ever had like a multiple choice test or something like that, your answer might show up this way, but I'll take either one of these for now. All right, so let's try another example here. Go ahead and copy this down. We'll do it together. Okay, so same directions, solve for x. Let's go ahead and do it. Here's what I see. I see that we have a minus b being multiplied, and we have this positive a over here. Okay, just be careful. We want to follow our rules we always do. Technically, this positive a, it's being added. So the first thing we're going to get rid of is this a by subtracting it from both sides. All right, so they're gone. We have a minus b times x. On the right-hand side, c minus a. Again, can't actually subtract that, so we're just going to write it c minus a. Okay, now we can solve for x. It's being multiplied by a negative b, so we are going to divide by a negative b, both sides. Right, so they're gone, and I got x equals c minus a over negative b. Okay, and just for the sake of it, let's also write the alternate way that this can be written. Let's go ahead and show that we can write it as x equals c divided by negative b and negative a divided by negative b. All right, so c divided by negative b. And then here's something to think about. If I have negative a divided by negative b, this is actually a double negative. It's going to turn into a positive. So this would actually be plus a over b. Right, and yes, those are equivalents, exactly the same. Okay, so with that in mind, go ahead and try one of these same directions. You don't need to keep getting that. Go ahead and solve this equation for x. All right, so a lot like the others, let's go ahead and see what happens here. B is being subtracted. Let's go ahead and get rid of it by adding it, both sides. All right, so they're gone now. I got a negative a times x equals b, or sorry, c plus b. Right, now I can go ahead and get rid of this negative a. It's being multiplied, so we divide by the negative a. All right, I just want to remind you guys, sometimes it's really easy to think, okay, negative a, I'm going to divide by a. You know, they're opposites. I got to do the opposite operation, right? Well, if it was being subtracted, yeah, you would add it. Okay, but it's being multiplied by a negative a, so we're dividing by a negative a. All right, so just be careful of that. Okay, so they're gone, and we got x equals, we'll write it the simple way first, c plus b over negative a. Okay, but let's also get the other way, x equals c divided by negative a, and then b divided by negative a. All right, another, by the way, we could write it like this, plus b divided by negative a, but this plus sign and this negative, if you guys remember, if we ever have them side by side, the minus sign or the negative kind of supersedes the plus sign. So actually another way of writing this would be, instead of plus b over negative a, would just be minus b over a. Okay, that is the exact same thing. Okay, I'm just wanting you guys to kind of get used to seeing these alternate ways so it doesn't throw you off if you run into it. All right, so moving on from here, let's try this next example. Go ahead and copy this down. All right, so first things first that I noticed, we have numbers. I said we weren't going to be using numbers. I lied. So now we have numbers back in our problems, but we have two different variables. Unlike the problems we were dealing with, so far, we've only had one variable. Now we have two of them. Okay, they want us to solve this thing for y, right? So here's what we know, just to kind of break it down. Here's why. We have a positive 2 being multiplied by y. We'll eventually get rid of that. And we have a positive 3x. All right, that whole 3x is being added, so we're going to get rid of it by subtracting the entire 3x. We want to send the whole thing away, right? So they're gone. We have a positive 2y on the left. On the right, 9 minus 3x. Here's something I want you to start getting used to. If you ever see something like this, obviously I can't subtract this. These are not like terms, so I'm going to write them side by side. But I want to write them with this variable value first and then this 9. Okay, so instead of 9 minus 3x, I'm going to write this as minus 3x plus 9. All right, because this form right here is going to be a form we see a lot. I'm sure you've dealt with it in the past. It's called slope-intercept form. We're not dealing with it right now, but I want you to start getting used to seeing it. Okay, last thing. This 2 is being multiplied, so let's go ahead and divide both sides. All right, and we've got y equals, here's the big thing. This is being divided into both of these. Now, instead of just writing it as, that clumped together form, I'm going to now want you guys to divide this into both terms. Okay, so negative 3x over 2, which, by the way, probably the way you'd see this normally written is negative 3 over 2 with the x next to the ratio, and then 9 divided by 2, which, we can just write as a 9 over 2. Okay, when it comes to solving for y, this is the form I want to see it. All right, whether these numbers would divide, excuse me, or not, this is the form that I want you to start getting used to. So there it is. All right, I'm going to try one more with you guys, and then I'll have you try one after this. Go ahead and copy this. We'll solve for y. Okay, so same idea. Positive 4 is being multiplied. We'll eventually get rid of that. But this minus 6x, it's being subtracted, so we will get rid of it by adding the entire 6x over to the right-hand side. Okay, so they're gone. We have a positive 4y. Over on the right here, again, I'm not going to write this as 10 plus 6x. I'm going to write it as 6x plus 10. All right, now we can get rid of 4. It's being multiplied, so we're going to divide. Okay, so I got y equals, again, I'm going to go ahead and write this as, the 4 dividing into both of these terms. So I've got a 6 over 4x, and I have a 10 over 4. Okay, positive, right? Right. Here's what some of you are probably thinking. Hey, those are ratios that I can actually reduce. Yeah, just like we were doing in the last couple lessons. So yeah, if we can reduce our ratios, let's do it. Let's go one more step here. So y equals, we know 2 goes into both of these. 2 goes into 6 3 times and 4 2 times. So 3 over 2x. Okay, and then same thing with this one. It looks like 2 goes into 10 5 times and 4 2 times. Right, so there is the cleanest way of writing this equation. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna have you guys try one of these on your own. All right, go ahead and solve this problem for y. Try it out. Alrighty, so just like the others, this -2 is being multiplied by y, right? We'll deal with that in a second. We want to get rid of this positive 5x first, get rid of it by subtracting it. All right, so we got a -2y equals not 20 minus 5x. I could write it like that, but I want you to get used to writing this variable first. So minus 5x first, and then the positive 20. All right, now we can get y by itself being multiplied by -2x. So we're going to divide by -2x, both sides. They're gone. And y equals, again, I'm going to divide this -2 into both of these. All right, so I have a -5x over -2, double negative, right? So this is going to turn into a positive. So I'm going to write this as a 5 over 2x. All right, if you didn't, you can just go one more step and get this. If you wrote it as a -5 over -2, you're not wrong. But, when you see a double negative, it turns into a positive. Okay, over here, 20 divided by -2 actually divides evenly, right? I wouldn't want to write this as a ratio. I'd actually want to divide these and get a -10. Right, so that is the cleanest way. If you wrote yours a little bit different, that's okay. Go maybe one more step and write it this cleaner way. Okay, so yeah, nothing as far as solving skills was new for this lesson. We've done all of this like ad nauseum, way too much probably. You're like sick of it, I'm sure. But now, you solving for different variables and having multiple variables and just knowing the form that I want you guys to get these in. That's what this was all about. Okay, guys, so I'll see you back in class. Bye.